So the Canucci's,
Thank you.
you have a question. You guys don't want to wait until you're up before
Okay,
you.
no, we absolutely can. Absolutely.
All right. All right. So
I believe the Losos have wanted to say something too early on. I don't know if they raised their hand or not, but I saw them.
Yeah.
No, we did. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, we're just neighbors that live right next door and just wanted to say that they are not following anything that you guys put in place or whatever. Concern for our own dog and children walking by and people walking by. I think something should be done.
Yeah, the dog, we bring our Scotty outside to play and their window is facing our yard where our dog is playing, and that dog continuously growls and barks. And I bring a baseball bat outside now when I take my dog out because
There's only a screen.
I can't trust it. No, I don't have a gun. I wish I did, but I don't. So I'm looking for home runs. If somebody isn't going to take care of this issue, how many more dogs have to be attacked and people have to be attacked by these dogs? Just asking.
okay. Anyone else? Again, we haven't gotten into the hearing yet.
Carrie, Deb has her hand up.
Go ahead, Deb.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I don't really have a statement prepared or anything. I just wanted to note that, I was the first person who was bit by these dogs or by the small dog.
Wow.
And I had my 2-year-old Golden with me at the time. He's almost 3 now, 3 in October. But, I consider these dogs dog reactive, and it was the small dog that was the aggressor at the time. My concern this time is that it was the larger dog that attacked Canucci's dog. My concern is that these dogs are getting a pack mentality, and that if anybody goes after one of the dogs, the other dog is going to attack them.
Right. That's fact.
Okay. Can you mute, please? Losos?
Yep.
Thank you.
I consider, my attack just be sort of a warning. If something like that happened to me, I would immediately call all the dog trainers in Rutland County and talk to the vet and, do everything that I needed to do so that it wouldn't happen again. But given that this is the 3rd time it's happened and the attacks are getting worse, something really needs to happen.
Okay. All right. We can't spend the entire night on open comment. I understand that people are upset. I do, but we need to have a dog hearing. Nothing's been founded or anything yet. So I'm going to continue on with the agenda and this dog hearing. So at this point, the resident of Reynolds has not joined us. The resident did leave a letter for the select board this evening. 1 second, let me grab it. So his letter says, I was bringing my dogs in from our fenced-in backyard. I was actually inside my house and trying to close the door when the smaller dog Betsy escaped my grip and backed out the door. After this, my other dog, Constantez, slipped away in the chaos. I chased after. I eventually caught up at the blue house on Grove Street. I was able to grab my larger dog almost immediately. The smaller dog, Betsy, ran over to the house on the corner with the RV in the driveway. The homeowner happened to be outside and was able to grab her for me then, and I was able to bring them there. I'll likely be unable to actually speak at the hearing. I unfortunately will be in a work meeting. I should be able to at least listen, though. If you have any questions for me, you may call me tomorrow, Jade. So that being said, I'll now let the Canucci speak to the incident.
So it was like 4:15 on Friday afternoon. And I was sitting on my back porch and Bailey was laying right next to me in the grass. And it sounded like, all of a sudden, like it was quiet and it sounded like elephants is what it sounded like, because they were running so fast. They came down from my neighbor on the corner in the greenhouse from South Street, charging down the hill to my dog that was laying down in her own yard. And the little one attacked first. That's the one that has like a black spot over its eye. And then the bigger one started. And at that time, Bailey was laying down. So they took her by the collar and started flopping her back and forth with her collar, attacking her. And she was on the grass. Where she ended was in my flower bed, which is like, what, 3-4 feet away, because they were dragging her. And when he first came to the yard, they did not let go. They continued. The bigger one backed off first. The littler one finally got her collar off, and Lisa McGlory witnessed this, and so didn't my neighbor on the corner. They both did a statement. And it was then that they bit into her neck in several spots. And he was screaming at the two dogs, and he finally got a hold of them, but it wasn't after they had bitten inside of her ear and punctured around her neck several times that she was finally able to get away. And her and I went to the back door. I got the phone and I called 911. I was screaming during this whole time, and there's actually a video of it. And I called 911. I came back out. He was still he was still where Bailey left from, in my flower bed, trying to get the dogs because they would not go to them. And I asked him for his address. I knew it was Reynolds Street. I wasn't sure of the number. He refused to give it to me. He wouldn't look at me. He wouldn't acknowledge me, nothing. And he finally got the dogs. And as he's leaving, he's got his hand on both their one hand on each collar, smirking as he's walking down my yard in front of my house. And when he was in my property, I said to him, your dogs are supposed to be muzzled, leashed, and confined at all times. I was screaming that at him. He would not respond to me. And then it wasn't, my neighbor, Gary, was also watching him as he was struggling to get them around the corner, because they're going at it as he's holding them by the collars to get them back to the house. And that's when the sheriff, talked to the sheriff, and they came about an hour later. And he still has not come over, to see, if Bailey's okay. To me, that's like, my kids walk the dog, or did walk the dogs all the time around the block. And if those dogs had attacked when Kylie or Braden were walking, they would have been either seriously injured, someone would have been killed. The way they attacked, it was not normal. They went right after the neck. Brian had pulled up about 5 minutes after the attack happened. He took Bailey right to the vets, because I had called. The vet, Dr. Bruce, said the only thing that saved her life was that her collar was on before they actually ripped it off of her. And if they had attacked and gotten to her neck right away, she would have been dead. And something needs to be done. This is, there's kids that walk back and forth from the schools. There's people that walk their dogs constantly in this neighborhood. That's part of being in Proctor, is being able to walk, and we shouldn't have to warn people, don't go down that road. There's vicious dogs over there. And it just, I'm an animal lover, but something needs to be done with these dogs. He cannot handle them, or Jade cannot handle them herself, because like I said, as she was walking, one hand on each collar, they're going at it, and he's trying to get them off my property. Something needs to be done.
Okay. Select board questions.
Don't you?
I don't think I have any questions. I read all of the reports that everyone had written, their statements, and the police report as well. And Megan's description, and also the video and everything else that's come in seems to kind of tell the same story, so.
I would agree with Judy. It seems pretty clear to me.
Tom, any questions? You're muted, Tom. You're muted, Tom. Still working on that. Do you have questions? Yes?
Excuse me.
Well, Tom's working on his technical difficulty. How about you, Bruce?
Yes, this has gone way beyond, seems they have not complied with any of the prior things. They seem to be irresponsible. Just some of the comments that have been made by Megan and Brian, I think that's enough to really warrant some immediate attention, and then having the not having the dog owners here. I think that shows
Mhm.
really irresponsibility. I don't care whether he was working or not. He should have been here. This has been a serious history the whole time, and I'm very upset that we have a irresponsible dog owner in town and not caring about anybody in town. We need to take immediate action.
Okay. Do we have questions? I'm asking for select board questions to further this hearing and investigation. Does anybody have a question? Tom, do you have a question?
Ms. Kingsbury and Lanning, were you reimbursed for any of your expenses?
Yeah, this is Ms. Lanning, and yes, I was. My daughter's emergency room visit, I was not, but we have health insurance to cover that. And but our veterinary bills, they did reimburse us for the veterinary bills for our dog, which were, the pretty extensive, but they did, yes.
Thank you.
My co-pays were covered also for my emergency room visit.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did give the sheriff the vet bills, and we've had more since. So I don't know if that's something he would cover, but we also have vet bills.
And you haven't heard back from them yet?
Nope.
No.
And they have not been paid because the vet actually called to check on Bailey today.
Thank you.
So my only comment is that we have to contain, this is a hearing about this particular dog incident. And in this particular dog incident, there was no attack on a human, and there hasn't been attack on a human. It's been humans breaking up a dog fight. So that there is a difference in the law and the way the ordinance is written. So I just want to remind the select board members that we have this ordinance. We are working on this ordinance still. That doesn't mean we're not doing something about it. However, we will deliberate and at the end of questions and comments, and we'll go from there. So all that being said, any final, go ahead, Brian.
Even though they were adults that were attacked from interfering, I can tell you that children will not understand the difference in pulling their hands away from their own pets being attacked. And it's going to take the loss of a life of a child before something is done.
I'm not sure what action we will take tonight. There will be action tonight, but I'm not sure what that action is going to be until after we deliberate.
No, we just know that, like, if this had happened, I mean, my kids had been out with the dogs, and if this had happened, we know both of our kids would have fought for Bailey. And, you know, when I went to go grab her by the collar, because that was my instinct, the dog went to go latch, and I just moved back, and she's staring at me like, you're not going to do anything. But I just couldn't, because I knew what was going to happen when the dog went to go latch onto my arm. It's, yeah. That's my biggest fear is, you know, our child, because there's so many kids around here. I don't know if they would, but there's so many people that walk dogs, and that's my fear. And I know that's a fear, but after what I saw, you know, like my Kylie won't go outside by herself. I have to be out there now. She wasn't home at the time, thank God, but she knows what happened. And those dogs, this isn't the first time they've been loose. There has been multiple times before this that he's been running through our front yard trying to catch them multiple times. And this just happened to be the one where they went after the dog on the lawn.
Is there any other question? Go ahead, Deb.
I think he said no.
Sorry about that. I accidentally minimized Zoom instead of muting myself. I would just like to offer up a suggestion to the select board. At a bare minimum, I think that the owner should lose the privilege of owning these two dogs. If these dogs, I mean, if the owner lived in the middle of the country where there aren't people walking around on sidewalks, walking their dogs, taking their children for a walk, kids riding bikes, things like that. You know, these dogs might have a chance of having a good life. It's not fair to a dog to expect it to be inside all of the time. You know, I'm just offering that as a suggestion to the select board.
Okay. Patrick and Katie Banks.
Hi, so I have a question in regards to interpretation of the code, because of the ordinance rather. So when I read this, it does state, and sorry, I just lost it.
It states that the dog can be, owners can be fined and impounded $500 for the third offense. And also talks about the dog can be impounded if the enforcement officer, which I assume is the select board, feels the dog is potentially vicious to humans or other animals. So if that's the ordinance, I guess we hope that the select board will adhere to the town ordinance and start penalizing these owners.
And one more thing, I'm sorry, I found it. So it does say grounds for impoundment. Any dog may be immediately impounded if the dog has, number one, been determined by an enforcement officer to be a potentially vicious dog, which presents an immediate danger to both people or other animals. So this dog, to me, in terms of Section 8A, it has posed an immediate threat to both animals and people. So I think that it's written in black and white that it really is a matter of that being a threat. And I would like to add, I didn't mention this earlier, and I do have video footage of this where the dog, I live directly across the street. So I understand all the children that are in this neighborhood. And it's not just children, it's other dogs that are innocent. But the dog has run across to my property several times, which I have on camera, trying to attack my dogs through the fence, in which he has bitten the nose of my dog through the fence. So there's no barriers with these animals. And once again, just as of yesterday afternoon, there's no leash. So they're in violation of everything that they've been asked to do. And we're looking to see the actual ordinances that are in place be enforced.
So I want to comment to that. So when these occurrences are happening and they're loose, you have to call the sheriff in order for it to be on record. That's the only way it can be on record. And that's the only way to enforce any ordinance, is to know that it is happening. So the sheriff isn't just gonna run the block until the dog gets out. It's up to citizens to report. So I just want to make that clear. If these things are happening, not just this dog, but other dogs, that's important. Because then we can prevent some of this from getting out of hand. So I just want to make sure that people understand that. And the ordinance says can. So we also have to go by other parts of the ordinance that we can enforce. And that, because impoundment also means we have to find a place to impound and we have to pay for it. So that's the other part of it. So there are other things that we can find in this hearing. So we haven't deliberated, so not everybody has had a chance on the select board to discuss how we're going to approach this and how we're going to get this done. So I just want to make sure that people know that it's not that we're lax or anything. You can't do anything if you don't know it's happening. There's no reports. There's nothing to go by. So, Ms. Lanning?
Yes. So this, for this particular dog, this is the third report. And that I know of. And third call to the sheriff, third everything. So I do hope that there will be action, and I appreciate the sanctions you all put on back in August. It is frustrating to know that there's been no follow-up on those sanctions, though. So I can completely understand at this juncture why the dog owner is not on this call. Why would the dog owner be on this call if there is no consequence for actions for this dog, this vicious dog attacking other dogs and kids? Because my daughter is the one that was injured in the last attack. And so it's, and we're on Ormsby, so it's not like the dog is localized to Reynolds Street or Park Street. The dog is all over town. And this is the third report. So I'm curious, my question is, what is the next step? How will we, the citizenry of Proctor, be notified about what's going to happen with this dog? And how and when will we be notified? When will action be taken? And if no action is taken, what is our next step? Because my fear is, you've already heard one person on this call say they wish they had a gun, but they're looking for a home run. My fear is that folks are going to have to take something into their own hands. And I think the expense of that is going to be a whole lot greater than the expense of finding somewhere to impound this dog.
So, and we did not say that wasn't going to happen, but we also have other options, and none of that has been discussed. So
Right.
What we need to do is deliberate,
Okay.
and then this is a public hearing. So the minutes from this hearing and what the findings are will be public.
And when? Like, when
We're
will we?
going to deliberate tonight.
Okay. And the notification will be when? Like, when will I be able to log on and read the minutes?
As soon as the minutes are done.
2
It's
days.
2 days. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you.
And that's when, but it adheres to open meeting law. So those will be available. Okay, anyone else before we go into deliberative session?
There are two people with their hands up, the Banks and Jim.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Hi, Jim. For official, my name is Jim Blowitsky. I am Debbie Suttle's son. I agree with you, Carrie, that that if certain actions occur, the people, they do need to contact the sheriff's office because you will not just know. That being said, there was a similar meeting that occurred.
Okay, Jim, we're
I'm out.
not going to talk about another hearing. We are talking about this hearing and this hearing only.
My point being is, you mentioned that the select board will now go into a deliberation. They will determine what actions need to be taken. And I doubt that any follow-up will occur because that's what happened exactly in February. Deliberations went into session. Determination was made. It was made public. And I am still waiting for actions to be taken and verified by the select board.
Okay, thank you. Again, we're talking about this dog hearing. So go ahead, Patrick and Katie Banks.
So I have a question, my last one, in regards to liability, which would be, I understand that it's going to be an expense to impound an animal. But what, in terms of liability, should the town not, should they come to the conclusion tonight and their determination be not to proceed with action in which these dogs are going to be removed from the home? My question is, in terms of liability, if somebody is to get hurt and sue the town, how does that look for us and what would occur?
So I'm not going to even answer that question because we haven't deliberated. We don't have an answer yet. So the question is,
mine was if it is deliberated.
I'm not going to talk about ifs because we haven't come to any decision yet.
Okay.
So when we come to those decisions, if that's the way it goes, then I'm glad to answer that. All right. So I will take a motion to go into executive session. I think, do we have to go into the executive session? I don't think we do. I think it says deliberative session.
Deliberative session, yes.
Deliberative session.
I make a motion to go into deliberative session.
Second.
Okay. So that means that it's just the select board and the recorder and the